Hello, fellow bibliophiles, and welcome back to Blatantly Bookish, and welcome to another day of Vlogmas. Today, I am really excited to do the Christmas Carol book tag, which was started by Lauren Wade. This tag is pretty brilliant and is based on one of my favorite Christmassy books of all time, and that is The Christmas Carol. I actually hadn't read The Christmas Carol until college, nor did I really know that much about its story. I was a little pop culturally deprived child. I don't know. I vaguely knew something about three ghosts, and I think I had seen the Donald Duck version of A Christmas Carol at one point. Anyway, on to the prompts. Question 1, The Ghost of Christmas Past, a book that was a childhood favorite. So I talk about childhood favorites from time to time on this channel, so I'll throw in one that I don't think I talk about too often, and that is Bud Not Buddy by Christopher Paul Curtis. This book is all about a young kid named Bud who runs away from his foster home to discover himself, discover his family, hopefully try to find his dad, and in the process, he falls in love with jazz. It's just a really stunning book full of history about the Great Depression, full of information about jazz legends, and it tackles racism in the Great Depression era. So it's just a fantastic book that tackles a lot for a children's book, but is a really fun adventure. And it's one that I used to reread all the time as a child. Question 2, The Ghost of Christmas Present, a recent book that you think will become one of your all-time favorites. So this year I've actually read a lot of really great books. I haven't fully narrowed down what my best books of the year are going to be, but I can tell you right now that 2 books you will hear me talk about again on this channel, probably around New Year's time, are The Half-Sisters by Geraldine Jewsbury and The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel. The Half-Sisters is just a fantastic Victorian book that looks at gender and class in the Victorian time period. It also looks at women's work in really interesting ways. It's about 2 half-sisters, of course, and one of them is actually a performer. She starts out in the circus and she moves into singing, and she takes a lot of pride in her work, even though it is not looked upon as very respectable to be a performer, to be on the stage. And yeah, I absolutely loved it. I think it's really approachable for a Victorian book, and it's one, like I said, that you're going to hear me talk about again. And The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel was just such a wonderful atmospheric book. The way Emily St. John Mandel weaves together so many different little plot lines and threads and makes a story emerge from the depths of description, it's absolutely unbelievable. It's definitely a book I will be talking about in a lot more detail this January. Question number 3, The Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come, a book coming out next year that you're most excited about. So I am not the best at keeping up with new releases. I don't usually know about a new release I'm excited for until it's already out and people are already reading and talking about it. So I'm not entirely sure what's coming out next year. I do have some fairly new releases in mind that I still want to read, but that you would probably know about already because people have been talking about them. Transcendent Kingdom by Yad Yassi. I still haven't gotten around to Emma Donohue's new book. I think it's The Pull of the Stars. So there's plenty of books that are semi-new releases that I want to get to. I think Taylor Jenkins Reid is coming out with a new book in 2021. Malibu something, Malibu Burning, Malibu Rising. I'm not entirely sure, but I should probably read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo first. Question number 4, Bah Humbug, a book that everyone else loves that you just can't stand. So there's actually 2 critically acclaimed classic books that I read this year that were grave disappointments to me, that I really didn't enjoy as much as I thought, that did different things than I thought, and yeah, I just didn't love them. And that's that. And those were, of course, The Grapes of Wrath and Madame Bovary. they were okay, but I just don't understand the hype behind them, and I had a lot of issues with both of them. You can look at past wrap-ups for that. I don't want to get into it right now. It could be a long discussion. Question number 5, Bob Cratchit, an old dependable that you always recommend. So, books that I always recommend to people: The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. I actually have 2 copies of it because I love it so much, and because I am obsessed with the way this cover actually has the plot twist on it, but you wouldn't realize it unless you've read the book. And I just kind of love this cover. It's the most bookish cover I own, and it's just so cozy and reminds me of old antique libraries. So yes, but this book is one of my absolute favorites, and I recommend it to anyone who will listen. It's full of gothic, mystery, intrigue, and the writing is impeccable. So yes. And then, of course, I recommend Jane Austen to anyone who will listen, starting with Pride and Prejudice. We've got my whole Jane Austen shelf back here, and Pride and Prejudice would be the first one I'd recommend to anyone new to Jane Austen. Question number 6, Tiny Tim, an underhyped book that you think deserves more love. And for this one, I picked An Unrestored Woman by Shobha Rao. I talked about this one, I believe, back in 2017 when I read it for the first time. I just love this book. It's a series of interconnected short stories, and the way that they are woven together is nothing short of brilliant. It's about the split between Pakistan and India and the migration of people that ensued during that time period. And it also addresses the long-lasting effects of that split and follows characters all the way to the Indian diaspora, to America. And it's just a really fascinating book, well written, and just an amazing read overall. Question number 7. Today, why, it's Christmas Day. What's a book that always gets you in the mood for Christmas, apart from A Christmas Carol? So I actually really enjoyed Elizabeth Gaskell's short story, Christmas Storms and Sunshine. I don't hear a ton of people talking about it, but it just has all of those wonderful holiday vibes. It's short to read, more or less like The Christmas Carol, and it's Victorian, also like The Christmas Carol. So I would say if you were a big fan of The Christmas Carol, you might actually enjoy this lesser-known work of Elizabeth Gaskell's. It's about 2 families who live very close together, and the husbands of those families are business rivals. They're in competing newspaper or journal firms, and it's just about the 2 families coming together for the holidays despite their differences. It's a really wonderful story and something that I am now tempted to read again after discussing it with you. Question number 8, The Muppet Christmas Carol, your favorite film adaptation of a book. So how mad will you guys be at me when I tell you that I've never actually seen The Muppet Christmas Carol? Yeah, so I haven't. I do plan on watching it for the first time this year. More on that, hopefully at a later date. And yes, but in terms of my favorite film adaptations of a book, they're all Jane Austen related. I love the 1995 Pride and Prejudice with Colin Firth. I love the 2009 BBC adaptation of Emma. I love the 2007 Northanger Abbey version with J.J. Field. Just all the Jane Austen adaptations that you hear me talk about ad nauseum on this channel already. Question number 9, tag some people. I feel like this tag is rather popular and that a lot of people have done it already. So if you have a channel and you have not done this tag, but you would like to, consider yourself tagged. So that's it for now. Happy reading, happy Vlogmas everyone, and I look forward to seeing you in another video soon. Bye!